Welcome to another episode of Yummy Data Science. In this episode, we are continuing our discussion, our exploratory data analysis on the inpatient claims file. And to jog your memory, in the last episode, we were looking at an inpatient claims file that is created by CMS, and it's a synthetic version of inpatient claims. And so what we did in the last video is try to figure out what was in the file. And the way we did that is by looking at the file using glimpse, which gives you the number of rows and the columns. And we discovered that the number of columns was a lot, almost like 200. So then we used we used a function to put the names of the columns in another file, in an Excel file, in a CSV file, and we examined the CSV file both in its naturally ordered form and alphabetically to figure out what chunks of columns we did not need. And as a result, we dropped many columns. And so now from 200, we have down to about 120. And so in this the last exploration, we also reformatted a number of fields such as BENI ID, claim ID. They were read in as numeric, and as you know, IDs, claim ID, BENI ID have no numeric meaning, so we read them as character. So in this episode, we're going to try to figure out what is the grain of my data. And you have some idea because I've already told you that, there's a claim line number. So you're probably thinking this is the claim header and the claim line mixed together. So you have some idea about what the granularity is, but let's pretend that we know nothing about claim header and claim detail. And our guess is going to be that the granularity is the BENI ID, which is the patient ID, and the claim ID, which is the encounter ID. So, so let me go over to R Studio. And as always, I'm opening it up by double clicking on the project file. And then I'm reading the correct script. And the script we are on is 02 EDA. So it's part 2 of the EDA. And we are going to be running this section. And I just quickly summarized that this was correctly reading in some key variables, then computing some others like length of stay, and then removing columns, blocks of columns that we had found. So for example, the minus means that you deselect, that you remove from the data set any columns that have POA in them. POA, if you recall, means present on admission. It's a flag, yes or no. So we got rid of that. We got rid of all the ICD diagnosis E codes, which are injury codes, and we got rid of all the procedure dates. So I'm going to be running this. So it has 58,000 observations and 122 variables. So now if I glimpse it, I can see, and yes, I could go over there and I'll see at the top that I have BENI ID and claim ID. And let's assume that first our guess is that the granularity of the data is at BENI ID and claim ID. So so that's a pretty good guess. But then you're probably wondering, why do these claim IDs repeat? See this right over here is repeating with this. Why are they repeating? So this gives you a sense that maybe there is something else that is going on. And then we have, if you go to the very end of it, and because we've already removed a number of columns, it's easier to scroll down. You'll see that there's a claim line number. So let's now say, okay, that our hypothesis is that BENI ID, claim ID, and claim line number are the primary keys. Primary keys simply identify the granularity of a data set and can be used to join with other files. So it's just a fancy technical way of saying What's the granularity of the data? What uniquely identifies each row? And it is the BENE ID, claim ID, and claim line number. So over here, if you recall the lesson on dplyr, we are grouping by BENE ID and claim ID. And then using the summarize function, we are saying how many rows of data do you have under each claim ID? And then we are saying, let's filter for claims that have lots of lines in them. And this specifically is saying, let's filter for claim IDs that have greater than 10 claim line numbers. Okay. So I run this. Okay, and for right now, you see this message, summarize as group by output by BENE ID. You can actually ignore it for right now. Let's not worry about it. The group by functionality was created in dplyr a long time ago. And then the way it works, it has a little bit of an idiosyncrasy, but for right now, you don't have to worry about it. So examining this file, the multi-line, I can sort it like this. So you see, I picked this one. This is my really big claim, and I want to check it out. So I'd actually picked this one too, but I'm going to run this one. One really big claim. Okay, so 46 observations of, so it's for one claim ID, and let's just make sure that it's the same BENE ID. So yeah, it appears to be the same BENE ID, and it also appears to be, now let's look at the claim line number. Here we go. So you see the claim line number goes from 1 all the way to 46, and the revenue center, this is a revenue center that captures the whole hospital. Because this file is synthetic, it doesn't have the complexity that a real file would have, and the revenue center of 1 is used. But it does have all the many of the HCPCS codes, and HCPCS are procedure codes. More on what HCPCS are in a separate video. But right now, let's just assume that we looked at it and we said, okay, this is fine. And we decided that, we don't really need the claim detail information. So let's drop claim lines that are higher than 2. And so that's what we'll do. And if you do that, you can see that we went from, I'll go back to my PowerPoint where I wrote this down. We went from, our row count went from 58K to 21K. So that's pretty good. I'm going to stop here, make this a relatively short video. In the next video, we are going to pick up on more EDA with the inpatient claims file.